I would like to improve a little bit the program that is writing funny sentences, the program we did in the last episode. But for that we have to understand a little bit better the arrays. So let's have a look at that. And let's see here which kind of data types do we know for now. We know the integers, we know float, and we know string. When I'm declaring an integer variable that can hold only integer numbers, I type int, and then I type the name of the variable, for example, x. The same thing with float. I type first float, and then the name of the variable. Or with string, I'm going to type here the name of the variable. I'm going to be calling it car. And then if I want to assign a value, I say this is equal to 3 and a semicolon. The same thing for float variables. So I would type, for example, 3,7. For the float variables, I can type here the .7 because float variables can have a decimal point. In the case of my string, I can type equals, and then in double quotes, I will say BMW and double quotes and semicolon. Okay, so now we have seen that we can create collections of items. We can create a variable. Now let's make a collection of integer values in one variable. So the first thing I do is choose which type I want. So I'm going to take int, and then I type square brackets. The square brackets are telling processing that this is a list. It's not a single element like here, but it's a collection of elements. Then I type the name of my variable, and I will call it here like nums, like numbers. And then I will make this equal to something. It's not going to be like in these cases, which is just a single value, but I'm going to type open and close curly braces and a semicolon in the end. And between those curly braces, I'm going to type a list of numbers because we are working here with integers. So we type some integers, 3, 8, 1, 1, 5. So now we have here a list with 5 elements. And I'm going to draw here, this would be the place where the variable is stored. Here we have the B and W, and in this case, we have 5 locations. So we know how to print, for example, this variable x. We just go ahead and type print, and inside parentheses, x. And this would print number 3. Same thing with the variable y, or with the variable car. What happens when we want to print one of these numbers? I would type here nums, but then I have to specify which one of those numbers do I want. And I do that by typing here square brackets. The elements in this list have an index. So this is element 0, this is element 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I want element 2, then this would print a number 1. If I would print the element 4, then I would see on the screen the number 5. There are different functions that can manipulate the arrays. For now, the only thing we're going to need in our program is we need to know the length. How many elements do we have in this list? And we can find this out very easily. We can say print, and we can say here nums, and we just add dot length. And this would print 5 because we have 5 elements in our array. So let's try this in a little program here. Let's make an array of integers. I type the square brackets. I call these nums equals. Then I open and close the curly braces and I type the semicolon at the end. And here I'm going to type a few numbers like 3, 11, 8, 4, 9. The spaces are not really important here, so you can remove the spaces, but I think it's easier to read when you have space in between. So if I now want to print nums, and which one I want, give me the first one. That's the element 0. So I get to see here the number 3. if I type here, give me number 4, then I see the number 9. What happens if I ask for element 5? Then I get an error, array index out of bounds exception. So I don't want to do that. And how can I get then the length of the list? I type here nums.length, and I print this, and it's telling me there's 5 elements. If I now add some elements here, 2, 2, 2, which is repeated 3 times, now the list has 8 elements. So now how can I make a little program that gives me randomly a number out of this list? For example, sometimes 7, sometimes 2, 4. So we did this in the last episode. I have to declare an integer variable. I'm gonna call this which. This is gonna be equal to random. And if we have 8 elements, then I type here 8. Random gives me a float value. I could call this float and then type here inside which. But when I'm telling processing which element do I want, this value here must be always an integer. It has to be something like 4. I cannot type 4.2 because which element would that be? So it has to be only an integer value. That's why this variable must be integer. So which is integer, and then I have to convert this random number into an integer. So this should now work. Every time I run the program, I'm getting one number out of this list. What happens then if I delete these 3 values here and I run the program? It will work sometimes until I get this index out of bounds exception. And this is happening because I made my list shorter, but I didn't change this number. So it's better to type here nums.length. Then I can type here, even if I had just 3 numbers or 2, it will work. Now we will return 3 or 9 each time. You can see down here the value 3, 9, 9, 9. So it's a better approach to enter here the length. So it's returning a number between 0 and the length. If you have paid very much attention, maybe you're wondering, why does this work? Why, if I type here random 2, why does it work? Because this is element 0 and this is element 1. But here I'm typing 2. You can find the answer to this question if you read the reference. Let's search for random. And here it says the function called random5 returns values between 0 and 5. Okay, we know that. It says starting at 0 and up to, but not including 5. So the 5 is never included there. The maximum number you could get is something like 4.99999. And that's the reason why I can type here a 2. I will never get 2. I will get only a number between 0, but less than 2. So like 1.9. And when I convert this to integer, I will be only getting numbers like 0 and 1. And I can print this if you wanna see. Print ln. I print here which, and I will print ln, the number below. So now you can see that every time I run the program, the first line here is which of the 2 elements is getting. It's getting element 1, element 0, element 0, element 0, and it will never get element 2. That's exactly what we need. So now we are ready to improve the program that writes funny sentences into something more complex.